There he is. Can start with that.
There's
You get
there's Benjamin Affleck.
Benjamin.
Benjamin Affleck Mopather the fourth.
Benjamin.
So we are back. This is week two of our Ben Affleck retrospective month. Um, it's I want to take a pause here because I'm a little bit older than you are. So like I know in grade school we had to watch a video series called The Voyage of the Mimi.
Oh, I'm all about the Mimi, my friend. I
Okay, I
remember,
wasn't sure if you knew about that,
I
but
remember the movie.
never would have thought
That
when
little
you're
guy,
sitting in school looking back,
this
the kid
guy.
from the Voyage of the Mimi would be a two-time Oscar winner who directed a Best Picture winner in
How,
2012, which is the movie we're talking about today.
how does that end, by the way? Does he sit on the Iron Throne at the end of that show, or what?
When I saw it in the fall of 2012, I was like, that was a good thriller. I get why people are, enjoying it and why it's doing well and why
Yeah.
it's well reviewed and everything. I felt like coming off of Gone Baby Gone and The Town, which I was really enthusiastic about, and I rewatched quite a bit in the years following. Argo for me was just kind of a one and done, and I kind of knew it after I watched it. And this was my first time revisiting it. I was curious to see how it would play for me 10 years later.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that I'm a big Argo fan. I think that I can recognize that it's very well made,
Hmm.
but it's almost seems like an anonymous journeyman movie to me. It feels like something like Sidney Pollack or Gary Fleder could have directed. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that is a bad thing against Ben Affleck. I'm saying that is a thing more about the movie itself, which is I think it's kind of easy not to do. I think it's easy to do well if you're a capable director.
I think this is a very, yes, I would agree with you there. I think that this is a very workable script that looks more prestige than it is. I think that
Yeah.
this script is really light and fluffy in a way that I forgot about. I thought that this was much more intense. I thought this movie was much more sort of gritty. I enjoyed rewatching it, I think, a little bit more than you did.
Mhm.
I think the parts of it that are striving toward intensity, they do ring hollow, like the bit at the end when they're at the airport and there's sort of this contrived tension when it's whether or not they're going to get through at the very end, and it's sort of an opportunity for the one hostage character who had been a little bit obstinate to kind of make good. I think it's the kind of movie that's just like it's a crowd pleasing thriller, and I think when you want to do both, you can't go too far in one direction or the other. Like it can't be super like treacly and emotional and stuff like that. You need the cynicism of like the Alan Arkin and the John Goodman character and stuff like that. But it also needs to have a little bit of that accessibility, the whole idea of making the movie within the movie. And so it ends up being kind of about making movies. And then there's the jab at Affleck about how like a rhesus monkey can direct and it cuts directly to him, like there's lots of little things in there where Affleck is kind of stretching. And I mentioned to you over text that I thought this movie, not a best picture, I don't think. I can see a best director nomination just because it's Affleck's third picture, and as I said, it's a crowd pleaser, things like that. Maybe the adapted screenplay, because I do think this movie makes a lot of things look easy, but I
Mhm.
do agree that there is not a lot of substance to it. There's certainly not as much substance to it as I remember.
Well, I think what you were saying about sort of the balance of the movie, where there's the plot where they're trying to get the hostages out of Iran and everything like that, and that is played very seriously.
Mhm.
Life or death stakes. The armed military is very belligerent, and like if it's almost like a your manners could get you in just as much trouble as what actually you're saying.
Right.
So like there's a lot of tension built into that, and I think that tension for me, I think I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but like for me, I think that part of the movie works better than the Hollywood government
Yeah.
stuff. I think that stuff feels um too light almost.
Hmm.
And maybe that's what it was because the whole operation was sort of, a real last ditch effort. Like they kind of just pulled something out of the hat. So it might be factual to life about how everybody treated it, but like it just smacks of Hollywood patting themselves on the back. And then I have a real big Alan Arkin allergy
Yes.
around this time period. I swear to God, he's like a little kid hearing a swear word for the first time with Argo fuck yourself. Like it's so annoying. And the fact that he got nominated for an Oscar for this
Yeah.
is so on brand for them, and one of the reasons why they're an obnoxious academy.
Was
Um,
he wasn't, I mean, he just won for Little Miss Sunshine, right?
like 5 years or 6 years before that.
Yeah. It's odd.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're gonna give somebody the supporting actor award, and I don't even think it's like deserving in this particular movie, but give it to Goodman, who's never been nominated.
Yeah, the politics are definitely a little dicey, and I agree with you, and I think that's what I meant before with that the movie is like a little bit down the road. It's a little bit down the middle for what it's trying to do, and I think that there's a degree to which it could have leaned more and been more successful had Affleck been able to go more in one direction or the other. The cast though is it's one of those things where it's like that's one of those things that makes it so easy to watch. Like I love the scene where they go to talk to the two government guys, and it's Philip Baker Hall and it's Bob Gunton, the warden from
Okay.
Shawshank. And
Mhm.
it's like, God, these two guys, it's such an interesting thing to see them both together because like it feels like Bob Gunton's been losing roles to Philip Baker Hall his entire career because they just have the same temperament. It's like you just get them both, put them both up there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a
But
question for you about
yeah,
Ben Affleck's directorial career. Do you
yes,
think that this movie, granted he won a producing Oscar with George Clooney and Grant Heslov for it, and it was very successful. Um, do you think it sort of pigeonholed him as a Oscar director? Because I think whereas before with Gone Baby Gone and with The Town, he kind of was doing more populist
hmm,
genre, adapted from like Gone Baby Gone was adapted from a well-respected crime novel and everything like that. But almost like once you kind of play in that Oscar pool, like every project now has that expectation.
yeah, it changes the scripts that your agent sends you. Basically,
Yeah.
he starts to get the more prestige scripts, and I do think there's a degree of I like. I would love to go back and rewatch Live by Night. I think I'm gonna try it. I really do think I'm gonna
Okay.
try. I'm
Let
gonna
me know
try.
how it goes. Yeah, I remember seeing it like that was one of our first reviews.
Yeah,
And I remember seeing it opening night, and I knew the stink on it beforehand because it was, run through the oven grinder, or the meat grinder of like the failed Oscar
push and all
uh,
of that. Yeah.
push. And then by the time I saw it, when it was just like, oh, schlocky January movie, I was just like, this is exactly what I want right
And I
now.
know that like Affleck kind of ended up having a nervous breakdown while he was making it, and that was right at the tip of a lot of his needing to go back in and readjust a little bit. And as the
Mhm.
Batman was falling apart and all that, like that stuff. I know that that represents probably a little bit of a cliff he went off in his career a little bit, but I do think that it's I would be very interested to see what that movie looks like in hindsight, because I do agree with you that he maybe has more genre sensibility than he does prestige Oscar sensibility, and
Mhm.
that maybe he got put in the wrong position with that. I would
Yeah.
have loved to have seen him make grimier stuff like The Town. I don't know. I find Argo very watchable. Um, but I definitely don't find that it has the depth of a lot of the thrillers that it's aping. You know what I mean? And I shouldn't say it's aping, but the similar thrillers in terms. And I love movies about the plan. I love movies where the plan comes together, where you've got all the pieces and they're moving around. But the actual mechanics, the moving parts of it, there's a lot less of that than I thought there would be in terms of like setting up the fake movie, getting the hostages their roles, going out into the bazaar, and then going through. Like I found when I was watching this the other day that we got to the airport fairly fast. And I was
Mhm.
thinking to myself, like, oh, I forgot. This isn't as long as I thought it was. There's not as much interpersonal drama as I thought there was. The stuff that's there works, I think, for the most part, but it does end up just feeling a little bit lighter than I remember.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't mean to be so harsh on Argo. I just prefer Live by Night,
Yeah.
which I think is the most Adam Risky sentiment of
That's
all time.
that's the most Adam Risky thing I've ever heard.
So yeah, we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another Affleck review. We are taking a week off for Thanksgiving, so I'm sure that was going to be the first thing that you did on Thanksgiving was search out the next Ben Affleck review. So we apologize. You'll have to wait one more week, and we'll be back with either Forces of Nature or Triple Frontier. That'll be one of those. Will be the two reviews that we close out our celebration of Mr. Affleck.
And
uh,
one of those will feature
Rosalie Lewis.
friend Rosalie. So look out
Yep.
for that.
I am sorry, Ben, for
Yeah,
shitting all over your Best Picture
I
win.
think you owe Ben an apology. I really do. I think,
I probably do. I gave him a lot of credit for the Voyage of the Mimi though at the
that's
top.
true.
So
We did start up very well. What do you think Ben should direct next? What do you think Ben's next project should be?
I wanted to talk to you about that, and I'm glad that you brought it up because I'm worried that he's not going to make another movie.
Yeah, I'm worried about that too. I'm worried that he might be a little bit too, or at least it'll be years before he does it again. Because I feel like he's in the groove right now, like in terms of, his image and his career, and he's like really, really got it together. And I'm worried that he might feel like he's overextending himself a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but if he finds something he likes, I really hope he makes something again soon. Not
I
star. He doesn't have to star in it. He doesn't have to act in it. That might make maybe baby steps, Ben. You know what I mean? Like just direct first, and then if you feel like making a cameo or if you feel like taking a role in it, do it. But don't go too far too fast. Yeah.
Until next time,
Or go fuck yourself.
thanks, Alan Arkin.